Today, you're going to learn how to solve equations that have parentheses in them. If you recall, the parentheses require you to distribute. So I found this little picture of some angry birds. This pink angry bird is distributing into the parentheses where the little green and the blue bird is, giving you pink green plus pink blue. So that's the thing you need to remember when you're working on this type of equation. Anytime there are parentheses, you distribute first. Then it's going to be like just all the other equations where you solve and you check. So to get started with the first one, we have a 2 that needs to be distributed to the rest of the equation. So I'll get this problem a little bigger for us, and you can see that you will get 2 x's. And then, of course, 2 times positive 4 is positive 8. So you will notice that the parentheses will now be gone. Okay, after distributing, you will not have parentheses anymore. There's no need for them. So now that there's no need for them, you're going to carry out your solving like you learned. You're going to use inverse operations to get the variable by itself. So we end up with 2x equals 4. We divide by our 2 so that we can get x. On this side, 4 divided by 2 is 2. And of course, we sneak in a little check using the original equation. The reason we do this is if you messed up with your distributing, you'll find out now by checking with the original, not the second step that you had. So my answer of 2 gets plugged into where x is in the original equation. And then guys, remember, if you have parentheses and you can do the math inside the parentheses, you want to do that. 2 plus 4 is 6. Then you can deal with this 2 that was outside. 2 wants to get multiplied against what's in there. So it's just another way to check to see that, yep, we do get both sides equaling 12 all the way down. It's a balanced equation. That's how we know x equals 2 for real is the correct answer. Now, this one looks very similar, except you've got some negative numbers to deal with. So the thing to watch out for when you're working with negatives, a negative times a negative gives you a positive value. But then back here, you're going to have to do negative 4 times 3, which is a negative 12. So you can see how I just put my minus sign there. I could also do keep, change, and show a plus negative. But I like it to be a little bit cleaner and neater so I don't lose any of the symbols. So I'm going to leave it just minus sign 12. Draw the locker. There's your variable. So we want to isolate it by doing our opposite operations. So this will give me 24 x's equaling 24. And of course we want to get x by itself, so that's why we're dividing by this 24, and you just happen to have 24 on both sides. So x equals 1. Check it. Should always write down what you're doing. Hey, I'm checking. Six times 1, negative 6 times 1, plus 3. See if we do this in our head. Negative 6 times 1 is negative 6. Plus 3 more is going to be negative 3. Oh, we have a negative 4 that we forgot to bring down. So yes, this does work out. Negative 4 times the negative 3 we just got is 12. So since we had 12 on the other side, we are good to go. So again, the main thing when there's parentheses is you're distributing, but watch out for those negatives. Okay, here's another one. If you fold on this dotted line here, then you'll be able to continue the problem on the back, and you won't have to worry about running out of room, trying to squeeze more problems in. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 3 is 9. Bring down your minus sign. You'll notice that this equation has an extra term in there, okay? You're only distributing to the things in the parentheses. This plus 2 is just an extra item that's sitting over here on the equation. Remember, if it's like a teeter-totter, it's pretty darn crowded over here. So one of the things you learned about recently is combining like terms. This -9 and this +2, remember I could do the keep, change if I want. This -9 and this +2 can be combined to create -7. Okay, now it looks a little more like what we were doing. So the trick is remembering how to get rid of this. I would love to be able to subtract, but the problem is if I just subtract 7, this doesn't cancel out. I really need to add 7 to make that -7 cancel out. So I'm adding 7, which gives me 21 over here. 3 is attached to x by multiplying, so I have to divide. So it looks like this one gives me 7. Go ahead and check. Using the original equation. So 3 outside of a 7 minus 3 parenthesis. Let's see, parentheses first, it's going to make me subtract. And then if you're careful, you'll remember that you have to multiply next. So 3 times 4 is 12. 2 more is, hey, it works, 14. Okay, so that's how we know that this solution is definitely x equals 7. I'd like you to try the next problem, and then the one below that, and then even the one on the way bottom, even though I think it's probably going to freak some of us out that there's a fraction here. But if you remember how to put fractions into your calculator, you can still multiply these values. So go ahead and pause this video. Try these last 3 on your own, and then I want you to play it to check your answers. Okay, so hopefully you had a chance to distribute. You got your 2x, your -16. You started solving. I can draw the locker in here for us if we really want it. And you ended up with x equals 30 for this one. 30 does go in and check. For the next one, it's a little trickier because once you're done distributing, also right here, it's tricky because you have a -3 times 2x, which is -6x, and then -3 times this -3 down here. So negative times negative is a positive. My guess is if you mess this one up, it's right there where that happened. So if we can be extra careful, negative times negative is a positive. You had to combine like terms because we had another term with a x in it. So 10x's plus -6 gave you 4x. From here down, we should be pretty comfortable. Again, we can draw the locker if we're used to seeing that to stay organized. X equals 7.5. Plugging into 7.5 is a little messy over here, but I think if you work through it, you will see that you also get it to work out. Feel free to pause the video as needed or rewind. And for the last one, okay, just because you're working with a fraction doesn't mean you still can't multiply through. See me if you have questions on how to get that fraction in your calculator. 2/3 times 6x, 2/3 times 30. We have like terms right here that gave us 28. Again, we can draw our locker to see that both sides, we did the same thing each time. We got rid of the 28, we got rid of the 4. X equals 13. Took me a long time to check this with the 13 plugged in, but it did end up working. So if you have any questions, you need to let me know. This lesson goes in your notebook. Tape it neatly.